Today we'll go over how to set up a maintenance reminder to remind you when certain service intervals are due, such as oil changes and greasing points. To create a maintenance reminder, we're going to go into our menu. On our machine settings page, we're going to go to maintenance and calibrations. And this very first tab is called service intervals. So this is going to be a list of all your custom service intervals that you create to set a reminder. So if we wanted to add a new one, we'll go ahead and hit add service interval. Then all these are going to be custom and going to elapse and remind you according to what parameters you set in here. So for today, we'll put an oil change. And then we can set up our parameters. So service intervals, we wanted to know how long of a duration before we need to remind you to create this service. So for this, we'll just put 50 hours. And for our counter, it's going to be our engine hours or whatever it's going to be counting for our service interval. Notes here, you can put anything. Some people will put what oil they change or what certain grease points they grease during this time. And then once you have that all configured, you just hit save. So now that we've saved our interval, you can see on our page, it's going to show up in our list here of all of our custom service intervals. And we can see our timer here. So our interval is 50 hours, and our elapsed time since we created this reminder is 0 hours. So once that gets to 50, it's going to pop up on the screen every time you turn the engine on or anytime you turn the key on. And it'll remind you, hey, you have an oil change or a certain service interval due. Now, once it has reached your 50, or maybe you got to 48 before it triggered and you actually did this service already, you can go ahead and click on it. We'll hit our edit pencil right here, and we'll just set our timer back to 0. So this 0 button with the arrow pointed to the 0 will be lit up anytime that our elapsed time is not 0. And that'll just set our timer back to 0 so to allow it to count again to our next service interval.